Good Money podcast. I'm Val Stratford, a financial planner.
And I'm Sherry, a financial coach. And today we are going to talk about some of our personal ADHD struggles and some of the things that we do to help make them less of a struggle. And I am starting off, my biggest struggle related to my ADHD is sleep. It takes me 45 minutes usually to actually get to sleep. Once I'm asleep, I'm fine. It's that getting to sleep. As soon as I put my head on the pillow, it's like my brain goes into fucking overdrive and it thinks of all of the ideas. So last night I thought of 72 ideas for social media for my business. So writing them out like word for word in my mind, and it's just so busy. If there was an off switch for my brain that I could hit before I got into bed at night, it would add so much value to my life. So I am trying to improve this, doing regular meditations before bed, when I'm in bed, working on having a consistent evening routine. I'm working on it. I haven't seen significant improvements yet, but I'm not giving up. If I could get to sleep in 15 or 20 minutes, that would be amazing and would add so much more restful sleep to my life. So it's a challenge when our brains just never shut off, and being able to find those things that help calm us. I've never been somebody who felt I could meditate successfully the right way, but just learning to do it regardless of how it feels and it not being perfect, and just staying consistent with it. And it gets a little bit easier. But if anybody has any secret ADHD tips to shut off my brain, I would love to hear them.
And I wonder, for myself, I don't have that falling asleep issue typically, but I have convinced myself that I love sleep, and that's a mantra that I sometimes say, and probably some days to my disadvantage, because I don't jump out of bed in the morning. I love what I do, but I don't jump out of bed in the morning. I'm a snoozer. I've listened to Mel Robbins, and she has given me the science that tells me why that's not good. And sometimes that helps me, is like having the science behind it. But when it comes to that sleep aspect, if there's pieces that you use, and I know Sherry has been doing things like, you had a meditation pillow or a speaker under your pillow. I know, like, I can't sleep unless the room is dark. I don't know if that's an ADHD thing or just
I wear my eye patches that my friends like to make fun of me for.
Yes. Like, what about white noise machine?
No.
Okay.
Maybe something to try.
Yeah. One of my struggles that I have, that's kind of an overarching title, if you will, is time management struggles and efficiency. So for me, that looks like being on time for things. And sometimes that comes from meetings running over, but also that comes from time management. I'm talking too much with one client, and then it bleeds into the next client's meeting. Thinking I can get more done before I leave the house than I actually can, because I do well under pressure. So if there's that timeline to leave the house, I'm like, I can get this and this and this done. And my spouse is great at being like, what are you doing today? What are you doing tonight? And I'll say my list, and he's like, okay, so which ones are you actually going to get done? Which pisses me off a little bit at first, because I'm like, fuck you. But it is a valid point of, I have all these things that I want to get done, and then what do I truly have the time for? And some things that have worked for me is talking to myself in my head when I'm doing something. Like, let's say I'm doing the dishes, and then I think about, I should start a load of laundry while I'm doing this. I have to kind of talk to myself like a child and be like, nope, you're staying here until you're done. Or if you're doing a room at a time, stay in that room until you are done. Setting timers has been great for me. Really working on like staying focused on things. Setting timers of when I need to leave the house has been huge, and mapping things backwards. So let's say the client's house is half an hour away, mapping that backwards, giving myself buffer time, because I know I will inevitably try to wash the chicken eggs, feed the dogs, and do something else before trying to go.
And that's interesting that you said that your partner will challenge you to be like, no, Val, my dear, you cannot get all of those things done. And they might not know this, or maybe they're doing it intentionally, but them saying that is encouraging you to get more done. But that
fuck you, I can. Yes, I can. And I will.
Yes. And like, you said I couldn't do it? Yeah, like fucking watch me. And
Yes.
this is interesting because my husband like I purchased a Peloton at the end of December and he said, "Oh, how long before that's just collecting dust?" And that was a hell of a motivator. And we're now 3 months past that. And I have been consistent as fuck on that thing because it's like, yeah, watch me.
It adds a little fuel to the fire when someone kind of calls you out on that. And sometimes it does piss me off. Like if I'm doing a bit of like a rage clean or just like in my own world cleaning and it doesn't make sense to him because I just moved something and put it somewhere over here. And now I have to move it to wipe over there, let's say. He'll kind of laugh or like he'll have this look on his face and I'm like, what? What do you want? And I know what he's observing, but in that moment, I don't want like leave me alone. I'm gonna clean chaotically. I know sometimes I look like a little tornado. It's okay because I'm accepting where I am. And some days I do a really great, like efficient, this makes sense, but not every time.
And I think that's the hyper focus rage. If I'm doing something and I get interrupted, regardless of how valid that interruption is, or maybe it's an interruption I needed, it pretty quickly switches to like, what the fuck do you want? Like, what do you want? I'm doing this.
Yes.
It may not look like I'm working because I'm sitting on my laptop, or even worse, I'm just like head down on my phone.
Right.
But like lots of times it's work.
Yes. I can feel that flurry like come up in me when let's say someone comes to my house unannounced and I want to greet that person with love and take the time with them, but I might have just been in a focus session and I'm like, I'm upset because I'm like pulled to the surface. And then I'm upset with how I reacted to them being there because I'm like, oh, that was someone that I want to see and I want to spend more time with. But I just had this like not ideal reaction, whether they see it or not. I can feel it. It's how I feel about that situation. So having time management, that's where we were. Coming back to time management and being efficient. I am a list person. I like to block out my days. I like to look at my day the night before and know what's going on. And I still inevitably end up sometimes running late. We're not perfect. We're trying though.
And I think, well, my husband would say that I am late. I'm just late to him because his version of on time is early, but I'm right on time. If he says he wants to leave the house at 11,
you're ready for 11.
I'm coming down the stairs at 11:59 and I'm ready when he says. And
10:59, but yeah.
Oh yeah. Oops, sorry. So also time conversions and time zones don't work for my brain. But that's just a side note distraction. Yeah. But yeah, being able to find systems that work, like if I need to be somewhere, if I have a fixed appointment, it goes into my Google Calendar. My Google Calendar pushes it out to my Apple Watch so I can see at a glance what I have coming up, what's next, what time it is. And I will schedule things if I need to go to them. If it's an appointment at noon and it takes me 15 minutes to get there, I schedule it in my Google Calendar to alert me like 10 minutes before I need to leave the house. And I think I'm pretty good at being on time for things, but I think that's just anxiety that
I could use a little bit of that.
I worry about pissing other people off than thinking I don't value their time. So
that crosses my mind too. Yep. I'm like, I hope that they don't feel that way because that's not at all what it is. But
sometimes we're just a little messy.
Yes.
And sometimes people love us and sometimes people want to punch us in the face.
Mm-hmm. And going back to that, when you had said when your mind's racing at night, you had 72 ideas for your social media, idea overwhelm is something that I think we both face
all the time. And it's a blessing and a curse. Like the creativity that comes along with ADHD is great, but having 50 ideas when we can only implement 2 of them can lead us to not getting anything done, not getting any of them implemented, and not knowing how to like select which one is the best. And like that number of ideas is sometimes a good problem to have, but when it comes to implementation, it's definitely overwhelming. And I don't have an easy solution for this.
And part of that overwhelm can then personally lead you to almost make no choice because you're paralyzed by there's so many and I can't do them all. So if I can't do them all, I'm not going to do any of them.
Might as well just not do anything and watch Netflix. So here's my recommendation for you. I'm trying some of these things. I've tried lots of things, but being able to take some time and write down your thoughts. I'm journaling regularly every morning, and that helps me to quiet my brain a little bit and figure out what's next. And when you feel that overwhelm, stepping back and looking at your high level goals and plans. So, what do you want to do in your life and in your business, and what things do you want to improve?
Yes.
And which of those ideas lends itself most to the things you want to work on in your life or in your business as an entrepreneur? So, being able to just like, if you have a goal of increasing your business revenue, what things on that list are the shortest path to increased revenue for you and your business, but also which ones will be able to be implemented without a whole lot of extra time? Which ones are going to take the least time and be the shortest path to extra income?
And how do you how you want to feel in your business, how you want to feel in your life, and then aligning those actions to that. Task avoidance / procrastination is also something that I struggle with. Something that I procrastinate, that when I do get it done, it took 10 minutes, but I spent 120 minutes over the past 6 months thinking about it. So why not just do it and get it done? Having different systems. So again, having a list. Sometimes I break down my list as like, what do I want to get done this month? What do I want to get done this week? And then putting in the time to do it. It's not perfect. It doesn't always happen. And sometimes it's going with your mood. Like there's times where I'm in a real mood to like declutter and clear things up. And there's times where I don't want to touch my closet, even though I need to. So working with the mood, and that's probably part of like the ADHD cycles. And as a female, those cycles as well, where I'm like, I really want to do this. So then making the time for that, those actions when the energy aligns best.
Yes. And figuring out how to create systems, like maybe a to-do list, like who's telling you to do that thing? Even though it's you telling you to do it, we can have resistance to that list to be like, no, I'm not doing that because somebody else, future me, past me, is telling me to do that. So instead of having a to-do list, I have a list of things that I want to accomplish each day, but I call it a win the day list.
Ooh,
so
I love that.
It helps me, and I think there's difficult things on the list sometimes, things that I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And I leave them till the last all the time. But if I look at my list, and I just keep it in my notes app on my phone, if I look at my list near the end of the day and there's one thing I haven't done yet, it's like, well, fuck, I've done everything else. I'm one task away from winning my day. So that often is a kick in the ass just to go and do the thing that I didn't want to do. And one thing as an entrepreneur, as your business grows, pay attention to those tasks that you're avoiding and make those things the first things
that you
hire somebody to do, that you outsource. A huge one is bookkeeping. It's not fun. It's boring.
Yes.
It's your money, which you may be avoiding. So figuring out, what are you avoiding? What does that impact have to your business or your life for the things you're avoiding? And can you hire it out?
Yeah. It's not like hire your weakness, right?
Yeah.
You were talking about your win the day list. Another, I think a TikTok or a reel that I saw had someone that said they write down all of their wins at the end of the day. I like the win the day list better because then I have more visual to it versus writing them all down. But like the longer the list, the better the day sort of thing. So either way, either having the list and crossing it off or creating the list at the end of the day, I think I'm absolutely going to switch to Sherry's version. But along that track of helping to not procrastinate and not avoid those tasks and let them go into the next day.
Yeah, because when they go into the next day, then that just creates more overflow for that next day that you may not have the time to do. And I generally create my win the day list the day before at the end of the day. So I know
what you're set up for.
I know what I'm set up for. I know, like, did I go too far today? Am I feeling burnt out? Do I need to make the next day like a little lighter? And I also have a reminder in my phone to create my win the day list. So it's like
Love it.
all of those systems, like I have a huge number of reminders on my phone that are reminders to check my list, a reminder to create the list, and being able to have them there to prompt me to not force me to do the thing, but just be that little nudge to do the thing to set myself up for success the following day.
Yeah, you got to be your own best friend. Have your own back when, especially
Yeah.
when you've got ADHD. You've got to corral yourself in.
Yeah. And if you are trying to implement this and you're having some struggles with it, you can even inside the Notes app on your iPhone share that note with somebody else, and you can create accountability. If you've got a friend or partner or business bestie that
That's a
you
great
know
idea.
you can both use some accountability, you can create a shared file inside your notes. You
Win
can
the day.
each create your win the day list, and somebody at the end of the day could check up and be like, hey, little texty text to be
Yeah.
like, I see you haven't done this thing, like what's up with that?
Yep.
To just be that push, and any way you can add in accountability as an ADHDer is going to help you be more successful at overcoming those struggles and getting shit done, which is like ultimately what all of these things have
helps to do.
been blockers for, is that
Yes.
getting shit done. So we are happy that you've been here listening, and we'd love to hear any ADHD struggles that are impacting you so we can maybe come up with solutions to help you based on what helps us in our lives and our businesses.
Thanks for listening.
Have a great day.